As tensions continue to simmer in Eastern Europe, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has arrived in Kyiv for talks with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The two leaders will discuss Ukraine's ongoing standoff with Russia. The German Chancellor is also expected to discuss ways to stabilize Ukraine's economy after the fear of war took a toll on its currency.
Und die Ukraine kann sich sicher sein, dass wir die nötige Solidarität zeigen, so wie auch in der Vergangenheit.
Ukraine can be sure that we will show the necessary solidarity as we have done in the past. Germany is the country with the largest financial assistance that we have launched for Ukraine's economic stabilization compared to all the others. And we will continue to do so and make our contribution in this respect, and at the same time help to ensure that this dual strategy is continued. Clear messages about what will happen in the event of military aggression, and at the same time use all possible means to ensure that there is a peaceful development out of the crisis and that Russia de-escalates the situation.
Und dass Russland die Situation deeskaliert.
Scholz will also fly to Moscow on Tuesday, where he will be holding talks with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. As per the Kremlin, the two leaders will discuss the Ukraine crisis, security guarantees, and the possibility of sanctions on Nord Stream 2. On Sunday, U.S. President Joe Biden briefed the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in an hour-long call about the conversation he had with Russia's president. That call between Biden and Putin did not achieve any breakthrough, remember. Zelensky's office said President Biden was issued an invitation to visit Kyiv in the coming days to show moral support and deliver a powerful signal to Russia. But Washington made no mention of this invitation in its readout of that conversation. The U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, meanwhile, issued a rather grim assessment, warning that an invasion could begin any day now, quote unquote, and would likely start with a significant barrage of missiles and bomb attacks. For the last few months, Washington and its NATO allies have repeatedly warned Russia of devastating sanctions if it invades Ukraine. However, the West has also failed to put up a united front when talking about the sanctions. Scholz's government, in particular, has been criticized for refusing to supply lethal weapons to Ukraine or to spell out which sanctions it would support against Russia. Specifically as to whether Berlin will block the 1,230-kilometer long natural gas pipeline with Russia called the Nord Stream 2. Meanwhile, Ukraine has called for a meeting with Russia and other signatories to discuss other signatories to the Vienna Document within 48 hours. Ukraine's foreign minister has said Russia had ignored formal requests to explain the buildup of the troops, and the next step was meeting face-to-face to get further transparency, rather any transparency about Russia's plans. We've been getting in input from our correspondents. Trent Murray, who is in Berlin, has sent us this report. Take a look.
It is a very big 48 hours for Chancellor Olaf Scholz, if you will, kicking off this shuttle diplomacy, trying to diffuse tensions in the regions. In his words, this is all about trying to prevent a war in Europe. And so he will make his first stop in Kyiv today for those direct talks with the Ukrainian government to more or less try and get a read of the situation from the Ukrainian side. But of course, he does fly in at a time when tensions continue to ratchet up. As you say, more and more warnings being issued by European capitals and Washington that an attack could take place really at any moment now, given that troop build-up by Vladimir Putin. I think Chancellor Olaf Scholz will face some difficult questions when he's in Kyiv, notably why Germany isn't joining, say, the United States and Great Britain in sending military aid, weapons to Kyiv. They have certainly asked for them, but Germany has held off, saying it's got a long-standing policy of not sending weapons to conflict zones. I think he will try to retort by saying that Germany has given the most financial aid to Ukraine in recent years out of any other country, and they are trying to help with economic matters, as you said. But it, of course, comes as diplomats right across Europe continue to work very, very hard to try and defuse these tensions. But, of course, many countries now, including Germany, Israel, Australia, just to name a few, are telling their citizens that if they are in Ukraine, it is time to get out.
And our correspondent Stuart Smith has also been tracking those developments in Moscow. He sent us this report. Take a look.
Ukraine and France, countries you might expect to be on the same page as the United States on this matter, are also not quite as concerned as the United States and the United Kingdom are. The difference seems to be an interpretation of the analysis, with all these Western countries having access to the same intelligence, but the United States making the point that an invasion cannot simply now be ruled out, and the timing of which cannot be known, despite Russian military forces being in a position, the United States says, to invade. The United States then reading the intelligence signals to suggest an invasion could happen at any point, but there being nothing else for other countries to interpret the build-up as a potential invasion. And so you have a situation where Russia could, but isn't yet, and some countries say doesn't intend to, invade imminently. That seems to be the working style of Ukraine at the moment, which, although does and is of course very aware of the Russian build-up, of what's going on near its borders, is not taking the immediate imminent precautions you might expect from a country about to be invaded. The capital continues as normal, but with additional warning systems and preparations in place should an invasion occur. The United States says that it does consider an invasion imminent based on its intelligence, that it could happen any day. The question, of course, is will it? And the United States and nobody else knows, apart from perhaps Russian President Vladimir Putin himself. It's not clear what Russia's aims would necessarily be if it were to invade, or what it would hope to gain. Negotiations and diplomacy are still ongoing, with, as you said, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Kyiv today and in Moscow on Tuesday, which means that not all hope is potentially lost in terms of the negotiation and diplomacy path.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.